everyone. Welcome to another edition of Remixing Politics and Culture with me, your host, Pam. I am a public relations and marketing professional with a passion for social justice, voter advocacy, and culture. And tonight we are doing a part two follow up of what we did last week on affirmative action. When the SCOTUS rocked our world with dismantling affirmative action in our country. I've done some research and was surprised at how the great communicator president, and some of you hopefully know who that is without even saying his name. That would be President Ronald Reagan. He was known as the great communicator. Is a direct link to the crushing debt that so many Americans are dealing with for education loans. Back in the late 60s, early 70s, there was so much turmoil in our country with civil rights, and the Watts riots took place. The riots in Detroit took place in 67. So Reagan was the governor of California from 1967 to 1975. And like I said, there was unrest all over the country, and definitely unrest there with the Vietnam War protests and all of that. And so things were just rough everywhere. Well, the students at UC Berkeley in particular really captured Ronald Reagan's ire and attention. And he felt that the liberal universities were creating and promoting socialism and were anti-government. So what did he do? As only Ronald Reagan could. As governor, he began drastically cutting education funding in California, because prior to that time, education was something that both the federal government and state governments gave a lot of money to because they felt it was a priority to have an educated public, right? Maybe not so much for us, but definitely for the majority. And so at any rate, he began cutting drastically education funding in California at all the higher ed institutions, which then led others on the right in federal government to do the same. And all of this cutting of funds to higher ed led to the tuition-based model for higher education that we have today. In fact, 1984, and that wasn't so long ago, guys, 1984 was the last year that college students received more financial aid in grants versus student loans. And after 84, hence the student loan situation just snowballed and got bigger and bigger and bigger till we are at the at the brink of collapse that we're in today. We now have some 40% of Americans aged 65 and over in default on student loans. So what does all of this have to do with affirmative actions? What does student loan increase debt, all of that? What does that have to do with affirmative action? Well, there's a ripple effect. If you start to cancel minority-focused funding and admissions for school, then the opportunities to be educated are lessened. My brilliant guests are going to add their knowledge and opinion on affirmative action, because what the Supreme Court did, it's targeted towards education, but it's going to have a ripple effect, as you've already seen in the news, with DEI programs being phased out and all types of things. So first up, I want to introduce my guest. This is her first visit to the show. I have Dr. Vicki Jones. Hey, Vicki.
Hey, how are you?
Great. She is a faculty member in the Department of Mass Communication at North Carolina Central University and a proud alumna. She has nearly 30 years as a higher education administrator, researcher, and faculty member, nearly 30 years of experience in those areas. Separately, she is a skilled inclusion strategist with successful delivery of services within higher education and corporate industries. Dr. Vicki Jones seeks to infuse the tenets of media and technology as an apparatus for justice. She is also a published author. Welcome to the show, Vicki. I'm just going to call you Vicki. Is that okay?
Yes, yes, please, yes.
All right. All right. And next up we have Cynthia A Johnson, former Michigan State Representative. She served 2 terms as a state representative in House District 5 because of redistricting in Michigan. And in the beginning of January 2023, the House District 5 changed to House District 1. While a legislator, Cynthia worked on bills for reparations, illegal dumping, cannabis legislation, and more. Representative Johnson stood toe to toe against Trump via Rudy Giuliani as he came to Detroit in an attempt to take away the votes of Black and brown voters in the city of Detroit. She received thousands of death threats from the MAGA crowd and received no real tangible support from her Democratic nor Republican colleagues, but she's still standing. She's still working for the citizens of the city of Detroit. She is a fighter, a go-getter, and all of that. Welcome back to the show, Cynthia.
Thank you so much, Pam. I really appreciate the invite. And this topic is a very important one. And good evening to you, Dr. Vicki Jones.
Thank you. Good evening to you. Good evening to you. Thank you.
Okay. And last but certainly not least, we have attorney Stephen Valentine. He's a Morehouse man, a former social worker. I have to put social workers. I love social workers. I do. I represent about 500 of them, and I love social workers. And he's an attorney and a U.S. Army veteran. After receiving the Bronze Star Medal for service during Operation Iraqi Freedom, he completed law school at North Carolina Central University. Stephen is a recipient of numerous awards. We'd be here all day listening to his awards in the legal profession and for his military career. He is the director of the Veterans Law Clinic and served as an assistant professor in the undergraduate and graduate school of social work at North Carolina Central University. Welcome back, Stephen, to the show.
Pam, it's a pleasure to be back with you. I can remember my first foray was my attempt into public office. I had an opportunity to share my platform with you. And so I'm very happy to be back with you tonight, along with Representative Johnson and Dr. Suggs. I look forward to the discussion.
Mm-hmm. And you guys are at the same institution.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Vicki, since you're the new kid on the block, the first question is up to you. First up is the answer to affirmative action in college admissions is for all Black people to attend HBCUs? Why or why not?
You know, that is going to come down to an individual decision. I'm a product of an HBCU, so my answer to that, based on my experience, having worked after graduation, going to graduate school at PWIs, working at PWIs and HBCUs. At this point in my career, I do see it as a professional imperative to teach at NCCU and develop the students there. So it comes down to a family decision, but you are going to find HBCUs really welcoming back students to the fold, because if those families, those students feel they are not welcome, are they going to go through that same experience that they would have had before this decision? It's not always easy. Students leave college. You know, the research shows they don't leave because of aptitude. They leave because there's just not that sense of welcoming and having a place. So there is a social piece to it when Black students or students of color leave the PWI. It really isn't based on aptitude.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on the acceptance. So for that reason and the climate of the U.S. and all that we know has gone on, prior to COVID, during COVID, and now with this decision post-COVID, I won't say it's a 100% solution, but I do feel the enrollments at HBCUs will rise. We see students already going to instead of going to Harvard, coming to NCCU or going to A&T, going to, they always go to Howard. And, California, they're always at Howard. They're always at Morehouse Spelman because they don't have HBCUs in California. So that's just sort of a default. But I think that exodus will show and the enrollments will drop. There is no law saying you have to consider race in admissions any longer. And so it may not be the solution for all. It will be likely the solution for a significant number of families and students.
Okay. Cynthia, same question for you. Do you think that this change in education of admissions with affirmative action, do you think that is the answer? Everybody go to HBCU. Why or why?
Absolutely not. We're individuals. And we should have the choice to be able to go to any college that we choose. Unfortunately, as the doctor has said, our climate is the climate that we're in right now. It's really obvious, at least to me, that Black people are under attack. Period. You should not have to go to a historically Black college. I would want you to, but if you don't, you should feel welcomed at any of these colleges. And what this Supreme Court did, what this United States Court did, with the help of course, Ward Connerly, a Black man, to help to get rid of affirmative action. And I was doing some research today, and I was wondering, why would this Black man be so wanting to eliminate affirmative action? After all, affirmative action has helped a lot of people, including white women.
Oh, mostly white women.
Right, exactly. And we unfortunately didn't take advantage, or not like we should have. And so, but this is not a colorblind society, but this is what they want you to believe. Even with what I'm looking at, this so-called former president who is playing games with the whole country, with the whole world, actually. And that would never happen. That would never happen with Barack Obama. That would never happen with the Cynthia A Johnson. If I was accused of the things that Donald Trump has been accused of, I would have been in prison a long time ago. But they're playing tic-tac-toe with this person. And I really, that right there, that tells you that this white man, can do what he wants. And it's not just Black people who are hurting because of this affirmative action and all of the other things that including abortion, that this court has struck down. It's a terrible, it's a terrible situation for all of us.
Okay, let me ask you, Stephen, same question. Is that the answer for us to all Black people? Look, y'all forget about the PWIs, no matter where it is that you live, no matter what program you're going for, you just go to HBCU, full stop. What's the answer?
Well, I think that I agree with both Dr. Suggs and Representative Johnson in the sense that I am pro HBCU, having graduated from 2 HBCUs, but I also had an opportunity to attend an Ivy League institution for my master's degree. And so there are enriching opportunities, although different in many respects, that all students, especially people of color, should be able to avail themselves to. But I wanted to mention, Pam, that even prior to the Supreme Court's most latest decision in gutting affirmative action, essentially, there were 8 states already who had abolished affirmative action. Representative Johnson, it was representative in one of those states. And so Michigan, California, Oklahoma, Idaho, and some other states had already done away with affirmative action. And so we know specifically from the results in California that immediately after they ended affirmative action in California, the 50% drop in enrollment among African Americans statewide. And so I agree with one of your guests already who chimed in and said Black people have always been under attack.
That's right. Yeah.
So Derek Bell reminds us that we win, we lose, win, only to lose again. And so we seem to be in one of those cycles where we are losing. And I'm hoping that more Black people will step up to the plate now and understand that this is a crisis that we have to address.
Absolutely a crisis. So now the issue of race-based scholarships has come on the table, and it's become a thing. And I believe it's a legislator in Wisconsin that's brought it up. I think. If somebody knows different, let me know in the chat. And so, as you know, the GOP just duplicates itself from state to state. It's like they really, I have to give them credit. They really keep their stuff together. Okay, they communicate with each other, whether they're talking in Pig Latin or Morse code. They're keeping in contact with each other, and they all stay on the same line. And that kind of unity, I have to say, is very admirable. And the Democrats would do well if they would learn it. So, with that said, Cynthia, briefly, I'm getting ready to address something to you, Cynthia. Okay. If you were still in the Michigan legislature, how would you recommend your Democratic colleagues get past any proposed legislation like ending minority contracts? Because I'm concerned about the women and minority and women's business contracts and things like that. How would you approach that type of situation? If you could tell us briefly how you would do that.
Let me make sure I'm understanding what you're asking. If a bill came to us or a bill came to us saying it would eliminate what again?
It would eliminate race-based scholarships and or race-based business opportunities. You know how you got that minority women's business thing that you can get, and it helps you with contracts and things like that. What if it came up in the state of Michigan and you were still in there? What would be the strategy to override something like that? What would you have to do to counter that?
And first of all, in order for me to counter it, I would not be able to do it by myself. I would think it, of course. But I'll tell you, I wanted to go back to you mentioning the Republicans and how they're on a fast track and they work with one another. And let me say this. It's not just the Republicans. This is a Democrat and Republican thing that's going on in our country. Be real clear. When I say majority, I'm not talking about Democrats or Republicans. I'm talking about the people. They're white. The laws that are made to help everyone except those of color. So I would, of course, I would be crazy about it. But I've also said to the Democrats, even in a caucus meeting, I told them this. stop allowing these people, I'm talking about Republicans right now, stop allowing them to do all kinds of crazy things and we don't fight back on it. So you have to wonder, why are we as a Democrats not fighting back on it? And it goes back to the majority. See, they sleep together, they eat together, they have celebrations together.
Mm-hmm.
And many of these issues that go on that we hear of, it's really not our fight.
Mm-hmm.
They're fighting against one another. So as a legislator, of course, you know, I would fight against some proposal like that.
Mm-hmm.
I fought against a lot of things, and that's why I sit where I'm sitting right now, and that's not in the legislature.
Uh-huh.
Because you so much, and I've said so much that the majority has said, "Hey, wait a minute, she's talking too much.
Mm-hmm.
She might inform people. They might be listening. Hey, we can't have that."
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to take it in order for me, if I was a legislator, we're going to have more than just Cynthia A Johnson to
Right.
stand up.
Right.
We need all legislators of goodwill people. And unfortunately, I don't see a lot of that.
Okay. Vicki,
Yeah.
help us out. I know that you have been in this, you are involved in some type of you explained it to me, but explain it to me again, some type of HBCU leadership forum, and that you all are going to address this issue of what the affirmative action fallout, how it will impact HBCUs and whatnot. Do you have any concerns about possibly them taking away minority based scholarships and things like that? Tell us what you told me you were going to tell me.
Okay, yes. So the event, it's called Aggies and Eagles on the Vineyard. And it is a trek to Martha's Vineyard this summer, next month.
Uh-huh.
And it is Aggies and Eagles, of course, North Carolina Central University and North Carolina A&T, rivals for 101 years this year. So we're really elevating our rivalry and taking it on to be part of a North Carolina Alumni Scholarship event. And so that's what this is. We're going up during HBCU Legacy Week. The HBCUs do make the trek up there. And this is the first time, we're coming as individual institutions and we're coming as a unit, coming together and raising money. So part of the signature events for that week, the week is the 6th through the 12th of August, but the signature events are August 8th through 11th. And so the first day of our signature events, we have a forum. It's from 9:30 to 3:30. And this is before the decision came down. So we pivoted a little on the topic with the HBCU presidents, but the forum is about admissions, HBCUs, and the importance of starting that process early. So there's two co-authors of the book titled The Black Family's Guide to College Admissions. Okay. One of the authors, Morehouse man, Tim Fields. Yeah, we went to grad school together. And Tim is a Morehouse man. He's also Senior Associate Dean at Emory University in admissions. So he walks that line, understanding the importance of HBCUs, but also understanding the elite college admissions process and then bringing that information to Black families so that they, when you look at race, education, and the Black family, how you pursue that college admissions process. That's been, elevated in a way where the conversation now around the book involves, my child wanted to look at both institutions, but now as a parent, I'm a parent of a rising high school junior. And so, your views change a little bit. If I'm spending my money, I like to spend my money where it's wanted. I don't care if it's a cheeseburger, a dress, a car, or college. And so my perspective, even though I've worked in higher ed my whole career, this ground is new to me too. Looking at all these options and testing. We'll have testing experts, talking about the SAT, the ACT. I say take both. I used to be a reader at UNC Chapel Hill. So, take both tests because people test differently.
Yes.
On those tests. And you can be admitted because you do well on the ACT and do horribly on the SAT.
Mhm.
So that event, that program, that day-long program, will talk a little bit about admissions, testing with the testing experts, but also have an HBCU presidents panel where they are going to give their voice and perspective on this recent ruling. And so we're going to do a nice cross-section from Morehouse to Norfolk State. We're in talks trying to finalize with Prairie View and Benedict College and A&T and NCCU, of course. So that gives an opportunity. I know some HBCU presidents, if you go to their Office of the President's page, they've already put out a statement, a written statement. But there are implications for HBCUs, good. And I won't say bad, but, there's opportunity for sure. And ways to really reassure families and students that we want you. The educations are still, it's stellar at an HBCU. Excellence is there. It's just a matter of this generation who are very open and kind of accepting, now being, knocked over the head with the reality that the world that they're embarked in is not as welcoming as they may have grown up to be.
Stephen, thanks for that, Vicki, for explaining that whole process, and hopefully that'll be something well attended and people will really get some good information from. Steve, veteran, what are your concerns about the ending of affirmative action from the Supreme Court?
So, as you had mentioned in your eloquent opening, Pam, this decision was specifically about higher education, but the implications are far-reaching. And in the military, and they've already said that this decision does an impact on affirmative action in the military, but I can see large numbers of minorities being denied the opportunity to raise to the ranks, field grade officer on the officer side of the equation in service. And so I know firsthand I was given the opportunities for progression in the military based on my merit. But the military goes out of its way to ensure that women and minorities are an integral part of the conversation around promotions. And so it could have wide-ranging implications, specifically when we talk about people of color, Black and other minorities being at the table with the issues around national security and how important that is. And so I'm concerned. Coming out of the last administration, I didn't even take the end of affirmative action to sort of mix up the situation around promotions. President Trump did not promote any African Americans to the general officer ranks during his 4 years as president of the United States. And so we should be concerned about that, not having a seat at the table. And we should also be concerned about what's going on right now in the United States Senate. There's one senator from Alabama who is stopping all of the promotions in the military. Yes. I don't even want to say his name. Around the issue of abortion and the military. And so surely he could disagree with the issue around abortion, but that's separate and distinct from the issue with regards to ensuring that our military's posture with regards to readiness is in the best position that it can be. Pam, I just wanted to go back to something Dr. Suggs was talking about related to that family guide on college admissions for African American families. That book is timely in light of what's going on in our country. And just as a side note, Dr. Suggs, I'm also familiar with the other author, Shereen Brown.
Yeah.
If you take a look in that seminal guide, you might find my name somewhere.
Okay, I will do that. I'll do that. They're both great. I mean, they both have a wealth of knowledge.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Like I said, I think that this book is timely, and so many African American families should probably avail themselves of that book for the needs in their family around college admissions.
Okay. Well,
Oh,
that's
I can quickly say the event will be live streamed. I mean, we have a Facebook group, Aggies and Eagles on the Vineyard, but you can also go to Eventbrite and plug that in, but it will be live streamed.
is it free to live stream?
I'm sorry.
Will it be free to be live streamed?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, we'll have the team, live stream team. My understanding is they're going to have one central YouTube channel, and then everyone just kind of plugs in from there, each institution or person. And then that way, you know, you're going to listen to them talk about all these topics, including leading off with the book, which I think will just give people a nice perspective of two gentlemen who really understand both sides of the admissions coin.
Okay. Yeah, Cynthia got knocked off. You know how the internet will work sometimes. Well, listen, guys, I have a couple of videos I want to show you. The first one I want to show you is with LBJ, former president of the United States, who actually signed the Civil Rights Act. And I want, you know, it's like the same old thing, but with a twist. So I'd like you to check it out. Oh, wait. Let me go back. I forgot to hit share. I'm telling you. Forgetting. Okay. Right. There it is.
And still justly believe that you have been completely fair. Thus, it is not enough just to open the gates of opportunity. All our citizens must have the ability to walk through those gates. And this is the next and the more profound stage of the battle for civil rights. We seek not just freedom, but opportunity. We seek not just legal equity, but human ability. Not just equality as a right and a theory, but equality as a fact and equality as a result. You do not take a person who for years has been...
Wow. What do you think of that? Vicki, what do you think? It sounds like I mean, he said that back in 1965, an address that he gave. It sounds like today. And we're in the 21st century and we still talking the same stuff, but what he said was crystal clear. It's like it's okay we got to have freedom or what have you, but it's nothing without equality in fact.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say the more things change, the more they stay the same. But is it a platitude? Is this, you know, where is that going to truly lead us?
Stephen?
So, I mean, while, you know, Lyndon B. Johnson was very instrumental in breathing life into affirmative action, quite frankly, by executive order, affirmative action was something that was not new in our society. And so as far back as Franklin Roosevelt, they were implementing policies. They just weren't referring to them as affirmative action. And then prior to Johnson, Kennedy talked about for the very first time and with that specific language about affirmative action. But again, you know, it's good for the president to, from the pulpit, to provide some guidance around what is aspirational for our country. Again, like Dr. Suggs said, the more things change, the more they seem to remain the same. We find ourselves in a crisis. And so to go along with what Representative Johnson said a little earlier, in needing help, we need a nationwide movement to let our elected officials know that the decision of this high court can't stand. And the only way that we have been able to fight back in the past is by large mass movements of people and pressure on our elected officials to do what a majority of Americans see as justice in our society. And so I think that's on the way. I think that that's what's needed in order to change trajectory. And so again, we're at one of those stages where we're losing, frankly. And so we have to most assuredly stay in the fight so that we don't lose more ground. Pam, your guest, Mr. Mark Lee, had mentioned that North Carolina is taking efforts to combat the latest decision by the High Court by instituting scholarships in the amount of $80,000 for minorities. For families who make less than $80,000. Excuse me. Yes, for families who make less than $80,000, minorities and poor people, in order to be able to attend some of the schools here in North Carolina. But that doesn't address the issue of actually getting into these institutions, which is the larger problem. And so I think that was an attempt on the behalf of our institutions here to respond to something, but I'm not necessarily convinced that will be the answer, because we will see large numbers we will see large decreases in the numbers of African Americans, particularly at the flagship university as a result of this decision.
Right. I feel the same way. I raised an eyebrow because, as we all know, and even Cynthia may know this, even living in Michigan, she knows what happened with the 1619 project. Nicole Hannah Jones is an alum of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and they did her wrong. And she was trying to bring something to her alma mater. And, they just dissed her. And I felt my spirit she was going to say, forget it and move on. But I digress. It's really
scary.
It is scary. And I'm gonna tell you, I feel like we're approaching a post Reconstruction 2.0 type of era.
Yeah.
That we've been in a long stretch of Reconstruction, and now as things are slowly closing in to close up all of those freedoms and abilities, we're getting into that type of mode. What do you think about that, Cynthia?
Oh, I'm so glad that you called on me, because I'm so glad. Thank you. I am very concerned with this terrible decision by the Supreme Court with regard to affirmative action, because I'll tell you, when I think about it, the first thing I start thinking about is reparations. Reparations. Listen, the rules are made to change when we get close to something that is great. And this claiming that race should not play a part, I agree, race shouldn't, because race is only a man-made thing anyway. Right. But I do say this, that if we allow this decision to remain precedent, to reparations.
Yeah, we've had some. I've had several talks about reparations on my show. In fact, Dr. Deborah Jenkins just said that they're having a storm. She's in New York, and her internet keeps going in and out. She sent me a message because she's trying to listen to the show. But it's just crazy. I really do. I really want so desperately for us to get it together and realize that if we don't vote up and down this whole ballot this year, if we don't, here in North Carolina, we've got to show IDs, Cynthia. Yes, we got to do ID voting with IDs this year. So anybody, if Grandma and Nana and all of them and Pookie and them don't have an ID, y'all, we got to work to get their IDs. And as you know, the DMV is crowded. Okay? I mean, the DMV is full. Yeah. Yeah. Mark, we know they wanted to turn back the clock because they're afraid of being the majority population. Look, not being the majority, that's a fact. It's here. Okay. It's already here. That's a done deal. And I don't know. You can't turn back anything. So and white women are not having children. That's one reason why I think this abortion thing has been such a stickler. They're not. You can't make people have babies. You can't make them.
And more than
You're trying.
the abortions are of white babies from white women.
Maybe
more than 60%.
Wow. I hadn't even looked at that statistic or anything, but it's just crazy, absolutely crazy. But we have I don't know, this whole thing, the whole idea of post Reconstruction 2.0 is frightening, because if you look at anything, if you look at the story of Tulsa, Oklahoma, if you look at the story of oh gosh, I had it on my places. What were you saying, Stephen?
I said Greenwood,
other places. The moment we do better and we say, okay, we'll flex and we'll just stick to our own or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just not. I don't know how that's going to work. How is that going to work in corporate America even? How is that going to work anywhere? I don't.
I'm ready to leave this country and go back. Like they want us to go back to Africa, although I've never been in Africa. I'm ready to go to Africa.
Well, you know what? I was going to do a show on that, because there's a whole bunch of people that I have been connected to that are trying to get people to come. You know, there's a lot of repatriation going on in Ghana and other countries. And if I can't leave my kids, they're all grown, of course, but I can't imagine being so far away from them. I can't do it. If I could do it, I would do. I'd go somewhere too, but I don't have any place to go.
Well, God bless the late Randall Robinson. He talked about.
I was just thinking about him
leaving America, and so he did leave America. And
but his wife was from that country he went to. I forget what.
St. Kitts.
Yeah, St. Kitts. His wife was from there, so it's like he had familiarity. You know what I mean? Because even moving across to another state, as you well know, is traumatizing. Okay, it is not. It's no walk in the park. No walk.
But we need to be able to get out of our backyards and travel and see the world and see that there are many other places. Every time I hear people say, "Well, of all the places in the world, the United States is the best place in the world," I can't tell.
I can't either. I can't either. I mean, we like it because it's our familiar, and our families are here and all of that. But I don't know. I've got another video for you all. This one is with good old Mike Pence. Okay.
Equity in the education system in America?
I really don't believe there is. I believe there was. I mean, there may have been a time when affirmative action was necessary, simply to open the doors of all of our schools and universities. But I think that time has passed, and we'll continue to move forward as a colorblind society.
Am I understanding you saying there in that answer that you do not believe there is racial inequity in the education system in America?
I really don't believe there is. I believe there was. I mean, it's.
Okay, so he just Cynthia, what you think about Mike Pence?
You know, That's a white person's perspective. But I'll tell you this, I have many, many friends that happen to be white. People who I thought that was really, really friends of mine. But when we start talking about what I want to talk about, what I've experienced as a Black woman, what I've experienced as a grandmother, the things that I have experienced as a Black woman every time I get up, there is no way. See, he can talk like that because he doesn't know our struggle.
Mhm.
He doesn't get to see on TV Black men and boys and women being attacked by police officers based on the color of their skin. He doesn't see that there are people who go to prison who look like me, who's not guilty, who's been a false report has been placed on them. That goes on that has gone on all, and it continues to go on.
Right. Right.
So he doesn't see that. His eyes don't see that. He's in that privilege.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
in that privilege yard.
Right.
So shame on him. Poor baby probably don't know any better.
I don't know what he knows. He didn't ask mother what his opinion should be. Well, Judy Davis says something very interesting. She says SCOTUS is creating a 2-tier higher ed system, and she's a professor at Eastern Michigan University. A top tier dominated by white and Asian students, and a second tier populated by Black, Brown, Native, and lower income students. Wow, wow, that's wow, Judy, that's deep.
Professor, I got news for you. That's already the case.
Yeah, that's
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's already the case, and it can only get worse from here. I mean, the Supreme Court in their decision used words like invidious to describe affirmative action. And so, if you remember correctly, part of our liberation with regards to getting opportunities, particularly educational opportunities, they used the word invidious discrimination. Now it's being used against us, people of color, to include the people who brought this case. This case was brought by on behalf of Asian students at Harvard, but I got news for Asian students at Harvard. They will be harmed as a result of this as well. Say that again?
They feel that they are white adjacent. Okay.
Well, admissions practices show that because Asians are not considered minorities in business school or graduate school, maybe some undergraduate institutions. They are not considered. Mostly your Native American, Hispanic, and African American are definitely going to be considered the minoritized groups.
Well, although the white majority labels them as the model minority, you can look at the history of Asian Americans in this country and have a clear idea of how exactly the majority feels about Asians. And so the standards, what is it? The standards, students for fair admissions that fought this case against the University of North Carolina and Harvard probably was the mouthpiece for the Federalist Society, which is
the mouthpiece. They picked that guy out and said,
right.
Was the person, and then they had this one Asian dude that they showed briefly who was behind it, quote unquote. But the Federalist Society is all in it. All of the people that have been funding our SCOTUS. Ms. Butler says, this is our time. What has happened with the Supreme Court is a wake-up call to all of us. We've got 2 cents over rent and think we have arrived.
That's right.
Wake up, sleeping giants.
So I'd like to comment on that if I could.
Yeah, please.
That's 2 cents over rent and think we've arrived.
Yeah.
So we actually have a population within and I'm hesitant to say the Black intelligentsia.
Yeah.
People like Shelby Steele, Glenn Lowry, Thomas Sewell, and even Stephen Carter, who clerked for the late Justice Thurgood Marshall, actually are against affirmative action for various reasons. And so we have a conversation even amongst ourselves about the way forward. Mm-hmm. So we are definitely in a crisis. We're definitely in a crisis. In his book back in the 90s, Stephen Carter, Reflections of Affirmative Action Baby, talked about this day, but not necessarily in the same context in which we're having this conversation. And so he's a little bit more tempered in his opinion about affirmative action from an intellectual standpoint. But as Du Bois once said, you can't separate the intellectual from the realities that are on the street.
That's right.
Judy Davis says, in the meantime, students from above groups will drown in student loan debt to get their degrees from any institution. And that's a fact. Black women carry the highest student loan debt than any other demographic. And I have 3 of those Black women with student loan debt. And I know that to be the case.
Can I speak to that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah, on its face, that looks like what will happen. What I am hoping will happen is kind of the inverse of what we see with some of these elite institutions where, wealthy people just give away money to elite institutions. I think Columbia, the gentleman gave all the money for $100 million for the business school. So hopefully this has agitated, incensed, or inspired wealthy people who really feel the injustice of what is happening, especially when you look at some of the burdens of what Black and brown students must write about for their race to be considered. It's pretty demeaning to have to really lay all that out in your admissions statement or application. So just that sort of burden that's put on students if they choose to apply, I'm hoping that there are wealthy folks that say, I'm just gonna, we give to all the Howards and the Hamptons and everyone, but they start really trickling that down, maybe giving to UNCF, giving to other institutions, state institutions that are HBCUs, to help fund those scholarships to help lighten that burden for women, especially, and for anyone, from rural areas, because UNC, their admissions rate was above 80% for in-state because of the rural populations. We have 100 counties, but like 90 of them are rural. So those students, whether they're Black or white, they are going to be relegated in the same way. They don't have the test prep opportunities. They don't have the family background. They don't have mom and dad with degrees. That's a predictor for college success and just college, attendance. So I do think there is opportunity for HBCUs in the state in particular. We have the most HBCUs in the state over any other state in the country. So I am hopeful that the student scholarship burden at HBCUs is, kind of lifted by wealthy people that want to, put their money where their heart is.
I don't know. Trees put Edward Bloom here. Do you know why? Stephen?
I'm not sure. I think Asian people are being used. Okay. Yes. Okay. She said that Asian people, John McWhorter, yes, he's another one of the Black intellectuals that are against affirmative action. Yeah.
Now, this comment here, I think, is really key. What Mark is saying, we're seeing some of our athletes look at HBCUs now. Some are not rushing to the PWIs. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. That is where it's at.
That's where it's at.
You got to get it where the money hits. Nothing else matters, y'all. If the money, our Black athletes, they bring in the bucks. The athletic directors and the coaches, they're making all the money, not the professors. So if our students can go to the HBCUs, the only thing is, though, I don't know what happened when Deion went to Jackson State. It was some controversy or something.
He got beat by Central.
he didn't.
Yeah, I know you got jokes about that. I don't know. It was some kind of sketchy stuff about money, though. See,
there was.
Thing. And so people gave him so much flack about going to, he went to Colorado, right?
Yeah.
And my thing is, that's the other thing about this whole discussion, that we have to love each other enough that no matter where we go to school or how we decide to wear our hair, we're going to love each other anyway, and we're not going to turn on each other. I think that's a big thing with this discussion too, because
Yeah.
I've seen on where was I? On Instagram, somebody made the comment about Joy Reid's conversation about how she got to Harvard, and they said, "Well, we don't need to know about hear about her talk about that. She should have just went to a HBCU." And see, we get these real simplistic thoughts where we start, talking down about wherever we went. I hate that kind of stuff. Can we just get it together and love each other no matter what colors you wear, whether you say ski-wee or ooh, Pazifa, or whatever it is? Can we just be unified as a people so that we can overcome some of this stuff? Because listen, like Cynthia said, when I asked her about if she was still in the Michigan legislature, what would she do if she got certain bills introduced? Well, she's got to get a consortium of people to come with her. We have to do the same. We cannot let all of these individual things separate us, and say, oh, you think you too good, that's why you applying here. Bump that. You applying that maybe because it's down the street from where you live and you don't want to pay the expense of travel. Everybody can't swing that traveling for whatever reason to go to a certain school or whatever.
Well, Pam, that's a very good point that you're making. And I always communicate to people about the opportunity, no matter where it is. When that door opens, you make sure that you exit out that other door that's open, waiting for you to exit on out to life. And so, yes, so it's all about the opportunities. And so we should be encouraging all of our neighbors, all of the members of our family, the large family, the African American family, right, to grasp their opportunity, no matter where it is.
That's right. That's
Amen.
right. Hey, if they got the money and they're giving it to you, get it and find yourself a mentor wherever you are. But I do think that that key piece that Mark was talking about with the money situation with the athletics, that is a critical piece to our success in that area.
And if I could just say, we're actually doing on that panel in Martha's Vineyard, we have HBCU athletics. So from bowl games to NIL deals, and now with this Supreme Court decision, how does it affect recruitment, with sports? Because you saw a little bit of that in the last few years. Yes. And so, how do we capitalize on that? Because, the deeper part of attending an HBCU is the identity development. So there are students, if they forego going to another school, oftentimes it's just, maybe a Black male, not maybe, they want to really have that embrace. They want to feel affirmed. They want to feel safe. So there's lots of reasons someone young who's grown up in, this generation would make that kind of decision. So hearing the voice of some of those students, those recruits would be really interesting.
Mark, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about at the Essence Festival. I heard about that whole thing. That's a whole nother show, Mark. That's a whole show. And in fact, it may be part of this culture talk that we'll have next week that I'm going to do with Dr. Vicki. We're going to talk about some things. So we got to figure it out, but we'll probably do that next week. But Mark has something else. The Duke students came to Hayti yesterday. I did see that. It was great seeing those students learn about our Black Wall Street history. What happened, Cynthia, Hayti area was the Black Wall Street area of Durham, North Carolina, very historical area. Of course, Cynthia, they ran a highway through the area, and it disrupted the flow of the businesses and stuff in Hayti. And so the Duke students from the basketball team, which was world renowned and what have you, they came to Hayti and they got a tour and they got to learn about the area. So, and Mark works there. So just so that you can have that reference since you're not here in North Carolina.
So all of you are from North Carolina?
Yes.
Here.
Yes.
Really?
These two, Vicki, she heard of Stephen, but Stephen works in another department and Vicki works in the Department of Mass Comm. And Stephen, I met him because he was running for office and he came on the show. He was running for Congress once upon a time, just a little bit ago. So, and he's also, he's over the Veterans Law Clinic at North Carolina Central. So they're at a public HBCU in town here in Durham, North Carolina University. The Eagles.
They do it like this now, but yeah. Old school.
They do it like this now?
Okay. You do this. Like,
listen, I'm only a honorary because I'm on your PR.
You are. Yeah.
I was so proud to get my little eagle pen. I didn't know what to do.
That's right. We take one and all. Come on.
Yeah. I want to come visit.
All right. It was basketball team for Duke. Right. I knew it was basketball. Let's see. Bonnie, Greensboro, North Carolina Race. Okay. Hi, Bonnie. Thanks for joining. Bonnie is a dear friend of mine. She's a professor. She is a professor. Well, she was teaching for a little bit at UNC Chapel Hill, and now she is the managing editor of the Richmond Free Press in Richmond, Virginia. Nice. She's one of my media buddies. All right. Okay. We need Pam to run. Please. I'm not running for nothing. Forget it. No. Hurry up and take that down. No. Are you got to be kidding? Heck to the no. Mark, I'm going to get to that. Yeah. But anyways, guys, I have enjoyed you all so much. And we've got a lot of work ahead to do. The whole reason why I created this show is I know that people don't pay attention to the news the way I do because I'm a newsaholic, and I really want people of all places and demographics to talk. And if it's recorded, you can disseminate information. And if you get ready, you don't have to get ready, right? So we know the election is coming up. So if we're talking about it and getting people in that thought process of why it's important to vote, the Supreme Court was on the line in 2016. That's what everybody kept saying. It's the court, the courts, it's the courts. And now
here we are.
Courts. Here we are. Hey,
Pam, if this doesn't get our community out to vote in mass numbers, nothing will.
Right. We've got to, and I encourage you guys to share the video, share it widely, share it amongst your people, whatever. And more people, if you want to come on the show, please. My email address is scrolling on the bottom or whatever. You can DM me. Y'all know I'm on social media, whatever. Come on, talk. If you're running for something or whatever, I want to support people that have good sense. I'm not dealing with no MAGA nonsense.
My phone is down. Bye, y'all.
Okay. Bye. It's time to sign off anyway, but I appreciate you guys. And don't be a stranger. Come back. All right.
Thank you for having me. Oh, Tim Field says, hey.
Yes.
He's like, you're big time.
Okay.
Bye, Tim. Thank you.